Recently on an episode of the Tim Pool podcast, Tim Pool and journalist Tara Palmeri bickered about the facts and significance of the Signalgate chat leak. Things get heated as they argue over what was in the chat and whether or not the information leaked was classified. Let's listen in.
The way they were communicating classified information.
What was classified?
All of it.
What?
Oh, come on.
They said it wasn't classified.
Yeah.
That's not an answer. Are you dealing in facts or opinions?
I mean, you should be the one who's talking.
Indeed. I'm asking the question. And we have an official statement from the executive branch and their plenary classification powers that it wasn't classified.
They can declassify also.
Indeed they can. So when they say it wasn't classified, it's not.
Oh, if Trump decides it's not classified, then it's not classified.
Indeed.
Right?
What are they talking about, Greb?
Tara claims that the Signal chat is big news because it is classified information and it clearly exposes incompetence at the highest level of the national security apparatus. While Tim, on the other hand, echoes the message from the White House saying that the info in the chat wasn't classified, and it is the journalist who reported it, Jeffrey Goldberg, who is really the bad guy in all of this. Even though Tim claims to be all schooled up on the details,
I know this because I've read it and we've covered it like 17 times.
It's not surprising that he gets the facts wrong in his effort to downplay the incident and own Tara. Let's listen.
What was his direct verbatim statement about what was included in the texts?
That was semantics. Like, everyone who is watching this is smart.
I asked you a
enough
fact
to know
question.
Plans versus attacks.
That's not what I
Plans
asked.
versus attacks.
I asked you what he said was included in it. The specific details.
I'm sorry. What are you asking about, the first story or the second story?
The first story, Jeffrey Goldberg says,
Yeah.
it includes this specific information.
Yeah. He didn't give the information, though. He
did outline
generalized it. He
what
generalized it.
Was he wrong?
No, he
was.
wasn't. No.
He said it included locations.
It did.
It did not.
Tim employs a classic troll maneuver here, and this is where his genius at being a slimeball shines through because he tells a lie that causes Tara to defend something that doesn't need to be defended. Here's what I mean. Tim says Goldberg lied about what was in the Signal chat in his first article.
Okay.
There's no location. He was wrong. That's the point.
But in fact, Goldberg never mentioned locations. He said the chat included precise information about weapons packages, targets, and timing. And then later in the article, he wrote that Hegseth's post contained operational details on forthcoming strikes on Yemen, including information about targets, weapons the U.S. would be deploying, and attack sequencing. So Tim is wrong, but his tactic worked because Tara takes the bait.
Yes, it did. It said the apartment of the guy and his girlfriend.
Now Tim can do what he does best, which is argue an impotent point to death.
Girlfriend.
Apartment. Which one?
Do you want me to go over and read this over again? Because I feel like your listeners are going to be bored.
Does the word apartment identify which apartment and where? Because you can't understand that house. I'm going to go to a house. Does that tell you where and when I'll be somewhere? What city I'll be in? What state I'll be in? What country?
Okay.
So to say that we have the locations of strikes and then you don't have them?
Jones on.
He gets really obnoxious during this exchange.
Where?
Let's keep going.
I know I asked you where. Why are you reading random
BP,
things?
building collapsed.
Why are you reading random things?
I'm not reading random things.
asking
I'm
you
reading
for a
the text
location.
message. I'm reading through it.
And check this out. Even though this ding-dong is lying, he's still wrong. There were specific details about a location. Tim, let me explain it to you like you are a 5-year-old child. The apartment they are talking about is in the building where the Houthis' top missile guy's girlfriend lived. The one inside Houthi-controlled Western Yemen next to the Red Sea, where all the ships are being attacked. You know what I'm saying, Tim? The apartment that was bombed on March 15th, sometime shortly after 1:45 Eastern Time, and is now collapsed. Tim, it's the apartment with the dead bodies of the Houthis' top missile guy and his girlfriend among the rubble. Now, is that specific enough for you, you little rat?
Slow propaganda. Unlike overt forms of propaganda, slow propaganda relies on a steady stream of biased information, often disguised as unbiased reporting or factual presentation.
During the conversation, there was a constant theme. Every time Tara tried to verify the facts of the matter on her phone, Tim and his hyena-like co-hosts acted like interrupting assholes. Look how hard he tries to shut her down when she reads through the texts.
Why are you reading random things?
Building collapsed.
Why are you reading random things?
The reason Tim is having a meltdown is because putting all the facts on the table and discussing them is not at all what he is about. Whether Tim is being compensated in some way directly, or he realizes that his primary audience tunes in to hear him take the exact same positions and use the exact same arguments as the rest of the MAGA media arm, Tim never strays from the party objective, and that objective is to slowly erase things over time that make them look bad. A great example of how well slow propaganda works is the case of Jan 6ers, where insurrectionists who assaulted cops and vandalized the Capitol building in their attempt to overturn a fair and democratic election by force transformed into political prisoners and hostages in the minds of so many voters. Here's the current president calling the people who did this unbelievable patriots.
Well, thank you very much. And you see the spirit from the hostages, and that's what they are, as hostages. They've been treated terribly and very unfairly, and you know that, and everybody knows that. And we're going to be working on that soon as the first day we get into office. We're going to save our country, and we're going to work with the people to treat those unbelievable patriots, and they were unbelievable patriots and are.
And that includes this sex offender and this violent criminal, both of whom he pardoned. And it's thanks to propagandists like Tim that the leader of the party can get cheers when he calls criminals patriots. So when Tim downplays it and says all it was F-18s and launch times and nothing that could have been a security threat, you can be sure that this is just the beginning of the process of eroding the truth. In fact, I would bet that in true Tim style, he will be calling it the Signalgate hoax in less than 2 years. And you know what? I'll do a $20 bet over a Venmo if anybody wants it.
What kind of a guy is Tim Pool?
He's a prick cocksucker. He's also a coward and a bully and an imbecile and a sellout. Well, maybe he's not a sellout because that would imply he had some integrity to sell in the first place. It does give me great satisfaction that he gave her so much grief about not having the story memorized, considering he didn't seem to have a clue what the facts were. This is also deep into the interview, and you can see what Tim's smarmy bullshit does to people by how frustrated Tara is.
I'm reading through it. Do you think I have this on the back of my head? I don't just spew things out of my head. I actually like to have facts, okay?
Apparently you don't, because you had to pull it up
I'm
and you didn't
actually
know what he said.
say it.
I mean, I
That's not
suppose
the
you could
truth.
actually read the story before making an assertion.
I am reading the text.
Afterwards, you've already made the claims for an hour and a half.
I have read it. I just don't remember the actual quotes. You're just now. You just seem like a jerk. Just so you know this, you are actually just bullying me. I am reading. CENTCOM was.
I don't know the story, so you're being a bully.
More
There's
strikes
no
going
location
on
in the
for hours
texts.
tonight. Okay.
There's no location. He was wrong. That's the point. You didn't even remember what was said, but you were asserting a fact without checking.
Hold on a second.
The location is not included. Location and weapons were not included in the story. I know this because I've read it and we've covered it like 17 times.
Oh.
What a jackass. All that can be said is that Tim was successful at confusing things and annoying the shit out of Tara. Or if you're a mean little moron, you might say he owned her. I'm sure Rush Limbaugh's fat ass would be pretty proud of little Timmy here.
Was the Jeffrey Goldberg story accurate?
Let's look. Goldberg said the texts included precise information about weapons, packages, targets, and timing. Again, not locations. Let's start with weapons packages. The term weapons package isn't used in the chat, but the term strike package is. And because the term weapons package isn't clearly defined in the DoD Dictionary of Military and Associated Terms, there is no official military definition. But I think any reasonable person would agree that an F-18 is a weapon, and multiple F-18s taking off along with MQ-9 Reaper drones to do some bombing could be considered a weapons package. If you're a little twerp like Tim,
And weapons were not included in the story.
you might say something dumb like the planes aren't the weapons, the missiles are. But that's as stupid as saying that the gun isn't a weapon, the bullet is. Not to mention the launching of sea-based Tomahawks is included in the chat, and a Tomahawk is a big fucking missile shot off of a boat. Next up, targets. In the text, someone is referred to as target terrorist, and it is said that he is at his known location. This is also a trigger-based strike window, so the bombs won't be dropped unless it is confirmed that target terrorist is where they think he is. Is there any way to know who target terrorist might be? Yes. In a text that precedes the operation details, the head of the CIA, John Ratcliffe, tells everyone that a delay would give them more time to identify starting points for coverage on Houthi leadership. So it is safe to say that target terrorist is someone in the Houthi command. And there's more. After the strike, the National Security Advisor Mike Waltz, who is also the person who included a reporter in the chat, tells Vice President J.D. Vance about the first target, also known as target terrorist, who was also the Houthis' top missile guy. Waltz tells Vance that they had a positive idea of him walking into his girlfriend's building, and it's now collapsed. That sounds like a precise detail about a target to me. As for precise timing, that's easy because every text from Hegseth about the attack has a time attached to it.
Is this classified information?
Let me explain it to you and you decide. First, just using the text, it is clear that an attack targeting a Houthi leader is imminent. And given that Houthis hide in caves and are notoriously hard to find and kill, this alone could have alerted the Houthis that all leaders need to run to the hills and find a cave to hide in. Second, since the beginning of the war in Gaza, the Houthis have shot down an estimated 20 MQ-9 Reaper drones using the Iranian surface-to-air missiles Bark 1 and Bark 2. Meaning had the enemy received notice of an attack hours before it occurred, they could have better prepared themselves to counterstrike. This is not to mention there were manned F-18s in the air which would have also been targets. Third, because it is clear that the US had intimate knowledge of the target, it is obvious that a spy inside Yemen had been following him and reporting on his location. And something else we know about that spy, and this is something that Tara brought up, is that it was an Israeli spy, and we know this because Israel was publicly outraged by the leak. So you tell me, knowing that the target terrorists could have been tipped off and escaped, and F-18 pilots could have been put in more danger, and tens of millions of dollars of equipment could have been lost, and an asset behind enemy lines has now been compromised, were these plans a secret? Before you answer, have a look at Executive Order 13526, which instructs us on classifying information. In Section 1.4, it says something shall be considered for classification if unauthorized disclosure could damage national security and pertains to one or more of the subsections. Subsection A, military plans, weapon systems, or operations. This one's obvious. Strikes, drones, times, F-18s, Tomahawks, and bombing targets. Moving down to subsection C, intelligence activities. The chat made it clear there are spies following around Houthi leaders and marking their locations. It's easy to infer that a message was likely sent that says he goes to his girlfriend's house every evening, then another message confirming that target terrorist is at her house the night of the airstrike.
The information in the chat sounds classified to me.
Me too. All right, so in the spirit of not rambling on about different topics, we are going to cut it right there and invite you to watch part 2 where I will discuss how much Tim Pool loves the taste of boot leather. Please help the channel by liking, subscribing, and leaving a comment. And if you're feeling generous, become a patron and cement your status as a globalist. My name is Greb, your ally in the fight against disinformation. Oh!